have a secret, okay? Tonight, I promise, I'm not gonna beef with any foreign government, okay? Instead, I wanna talk about something that's killing people in my own country, drug pricing. In America, prescription drug prices are skyrocketing, and politicians on both sides of the aisle have made drug pricing an urgent priority.
America pays the highest drug prices in the world, and it's not impossible to fix.
People are sick and tired of the greed of the pharmaceutical industry.
One of my greatest priorities is to reduce the price of prescription drugs.
Why did he say that like he was opening up Jurassic Park? Welcome to prescription drugs. The Velociraptor comes out, but it's made of fentanyl. Drug pricing has been a problem for decades, but it's only getting worse, and this year is no exception.
More than 3 dozen drug companies have already hiked prices in the new year.
The average hike is 6.3%, nearly 3 times the rate of inflation.
This is terrifying, especially when you consider that nearly half of the country takes prescription drugs. We're talking about millions of Americans, or as they call themselves, Brockhampton. There are too many people in Brockhampton, and I know this because I'm in Brockhampton. Hey, don't laugh. You're in Brockhampton too, okay? I saw you at the meeting. Yeah, you're the audio guy. Probably the most egregious case of drug price gouging was back in 2015. We all remember Martin Shkreli, the man who looks like a child's drawing of Keanu Reeves.
One tablet of Daraprim used to cost $13.50. The drug maker recently increased the price to $750.
Why was it necessary to raise the price of Daraprim so drastically?
Well, it depends on how you define so drastically, because the drug was unprofitable at the former price. So any company selling it would be losing money.
Martin Shkreli became the most hated man in America after raising the price of his company's life-saving drug over 5,000%, and people got pissed. The only way it could have been worse is if he teamed up with Ja Rule, which would be the only festival where people wouldn't be able to get drugs. Now look, Shkreli didn't just fuck with sick people. He also fucked with the Wu-Tang Clan, who, as you all know, ain't none to fuck with. Shkreli bought the only copy of the Wu-Tang Clan album for $2 million. You guys heard about this album, right? The $2 million Wu-Tang album? And then he didn't let anyone listen to it, and it turned into one of the most bizarre beefs in history.
The feud continues to escalate between former Turing Pharmaceutical CEO and Ghostface Killah, just releasing this video response. Watch this.
I don't even know how it changed to this like this. It's Ghost versus Peter Pan in like 2016. You know what I mean? All he can do right now is just try to fly away in front of my face, man. You know what I mean?
Did you see that Peter Pan wipe? Shkreli pissed off Ghostface Killah so much, he learned After Effects. You think after all of this shitbaggery, Shkreli might have some regrets.
If you could rewind the clock a few months, I wonder if you would do anything differently.
I probably would have raised the price higher. Is probably what I would have done.
Your one regret was not raising the price higher? That's like if Ben Affleck's biggest regret was not getting enough stupid tattoos. Have you seen his back? It's just a Windows 95 screensaver of bad decisions. It's so fucking worse. By the way, Shkreli jacking up the price of Daraprim by 5,000%, it was 100% legal, even though it feels like it shouldn't be. It's like when they sell you a Planet Fitness membership. How is that legal? They're like, look, we got 3 dumbbells, half a shower, and you can never leave. Now go get the body of your dreams in this house of nightmares. Big pharmaceutical companies don't pull a Shkreli, all right? They don't raise prices 5,000% at a time like maniacs. At the beginning of last year, drug companies increased almost all their prices between 1 and 10%. Drug makers raise prices the same way Chuck Schumer's glasses are falling off his head. It's so slow, you might not notice. Why are his glasses always at 4th and goal? Like, they're just about to dive into the end zone. But those small increases add up. If you have a major health problem, chances are it now costs you a lot more to stay alive. Maybe the best example of how crazy drug pricing has become is insulin, a drug that millions of people with diabetes need to survive. In 1996, one common type of insulin cost $21. Now, That exact same insulin costs $295. Supreme is watching this right now, and they're like, damn, we should make insulin. Insulin is one of the most expensive liquids in America. A gallon of the cheapest insulin is up there with LSD, Chanel No. 5, and Cobra Venom, which, when combined with a heat source, actually create Rudy Giuliani. In the US alone, 7 million diabetics need insulin injections just to survive. 23 million more people are also diabetic, including Ghostface Killah. Seriously, he's diabetic. Add that together with people who are pre-diabetic, and it comes to 100 million people. That's almost a third of America. Now buckle up, because I'm about to become Indian Miss Frizzle and magic school bus you into the pancreas. There are two main types of diabetes, okay? Type 1 diabetes occurs when your pancreas doesn't naturally create insulin. Yes, that is your pancreas, or as it's also known as, your indoor dick. In this case, look, you don't understand. You better laugh at that. There's a graphics guy that worked on this shit for 12 hours. Renderings. Is it phallic enough? We made him re-render. Yeah, that's all he got. This dude did Oculus Rift for a penis, and you guys are doing, all right. In this case, insulin must be acquired from another source. Think of type 1 diabetes, like Melania Trump at the RNC. She couldn't produce her own speech, so she had to obtain a speech from another source. How did that get a bigger reaction than the indoor dick? Type 2 diabetes occurs when your body doesn't use the insulin produced by the pancreas correctly. This form of diabetes can occur later in life due to age, genetics, lack of exercise, or Paula Deen.
Before I cut this bad boy up, though, I think I need to run him through a little powdered sugar. Whoa. A little bit more powdered sugar, a little fresh cream, a little vegetable. Look at that yummy fried cheesecake.
Okay, that looks like a fried cheesecake, but this is actually a Paula Deen salad. Now look, there's no real reason to bring up Paula Deen, but around the time this clip aired, she had a big secret.
Why did you take so long to let people know that you had type 2 diabetes?
I intentionally did it, Al. I could have walked out and said, hey, y'all, I have been diagnosed with type 2 diabetes, and walked away. I had nothing to give to my fellow friends out there.
The most surprising part of this clip is that she calls him Al and not the N-word. Untreated diabetes can have serious consequences like nerve damage, kidney failure, even death. And as insulin prices continue to spike, diabetics are taking drastic measures to get their hands on the drug.
A growing number of diabetics and their families are now facing some tough choices when it comes to paying for the drug. Some are turning to the black market to buy illegal insulin.
So 200? Yeah. For 2 boxes, and then the extra, okay, cool.
Producer John Diaz easily found insulin for sale online, posted by people like this New Jersey woman who told him, as a diabetic herself, she has extra to sell.
Wait, where are they meeting? It looks like they just met at her house, and then she was like, look, I don't want to blow up my spot. Let's just cross the street. Insulin black markets aren't even the worst of it all. Desperate patients have also started taking lower doses to make their insulin supply last longer, and that is incredibly dangerous.
Alex Smith died last year because he couldn't afford insulin medication that could have kept him alive.
Can you even imagine what it was like to tell people that your son died at 26 because he struggled to afford the one medicine that created to save his life?
Alex Smith lost his life because he was rationing insulin. This isn't happening in other countries because insulin is way more affordable pretty much everywhere besides America.
This insulin pen that we bought in the United States cost us $140. It would last us about a week. This is an insulin pen that we bought in Taiwan. It cost us $8. Here's one that we bought in Canada for $13.
It's not just Taiwan and Canada. Greece, Israel, and Germany are all way cheaper than the United States. Even when you add them up, they're nowhere even close. Now, I'm sorry, but insulin should not be cheaper in Germany. Germans live on chocolate, beer, and the lie that their grandparents were good people. By the way, the high cost of insulin is hitting people with insurance. If you don't have insurance, you are truly screwed. So why has insulin become expensive in the United States? A big part of the reason comes down to drug patents. 3 companies own the majority of insulin patents: Eli Lilly, Novo Nordisk, and Sanofi Aventis. No, those aren't designers who got banned from Fashion Week for saying something racist in Italian. These 3 companies account for more than 90% of the global insulin market, and one of them owned 100% of Paula Deen.
And we should mention you're a paid spokesperson for Novo Nordisk.
Absolutely. I have been compensated, just as you are, for your work, yes.
Yeah, it's not the same thing, Paula Deen. Al Roker's not getting paid by big weather. But also, people aren't dying because they can't get their hands on bootleg versions of the Today Show. It's like, hey man, I got Hurricane Gustav from September 2008. You want it? Yeah. Let's just cross the street first. Give me that Today Show. Companies with drug patents generally say they need to keep drug prices high so they can recoup the cost it takes to develop a new drug. But that wasn't the case with insulin. Insulin wasn't discovered by pharma companies. It was developed in 1921 by a team of Canadian researchers that included Frederick Banting and Charles Best, who realized how important insulin would be for the world. And they sold the insulin patent to the University of Toronto for just $1 each. And those were Canadian dollars, which are basically Post-it notes with the words, "Great job" on them. Banting and Best weren't trying to cash out. They gave their discovery away because they wanted to help as many people as possible. The only problem is drugs. I said changes, not improvements. You just have to prove it's not worse. Think of it like bizarre new uses for Alec Baldwin. Drug percent of new patents were for existing drugs. These are changes to existing drugs just to extend the patents. And that's what insulin manufacturers do. They slightly tweak insulin, they refile the patents, and then they lock out any competition. Our government doesn't cap drug prices, so except it's all legal. The feds probably wouldn't have fucked with El Chapo if he just called cocaine El Chapitor. This is seriously like narcos insulin.
The prices of 2008 and 2014.
If you raise your price and I raise my price to the same level.
The same way NBA players are all friends with each other. Everyone's like, who's going to the Lakers next year? Just check LeBron's DMs. Here's 2 more competing brands of insulin. So I'm just asking a question. Are they price fixing? And then I'm answering a question. Yes, but that's not how
Prices is designed to offset rebates and price concessions to maintain profitability.
These are multi-billion-dollar companies price gouging people who need their insulin to stay alive. Drug companies do admit drug pricing has gotten out of control. They just don't think they're part of the problem. But, and then when they finally ring you up, they tell you, you've probably heard of the big 3, Express Scripts, Optum Rx, and CVS Caremark. They are owned by or have...
Novo Nordisk pays to middlemen like pharmacy benefits managers.
The middlemen became very, very rich. Whoever those middlemen were, a lot of people never even figured it out. They're rich.
You can tell he is excited about it. But PBMs don't see themselves as middlemen at all. Here's a video by Express Scripts explaining what they think they do.
What is a FERS? So no one pays more than they need to.
Some people think we're middlemen. We're not. Some people think we're parasites. We're not. And some people think we killed John Bonet. Who knows? PBMs are a pretty good place to start.
Howard Jacobson has been a pharmacist in Long Island, New York, used an insurance plan, and there was a middleman, the PBM. It told Jacobson to charge a $10.84 copay, and it took $8.91 for its...
Confusing this chart is? This is how the American Diabetes Association tried to clarify what PBMs do. How does this clarify anything? It's so confusing. It looks like a subway map. This is how health...
Recognize, however, that the process begins with the drug company setting the price. I wore my tie. I tried to wear a tie that's related to my testimony. Today, it's Leonardo da Vinci's left-handed backward writing in Latin.
You know drug pricing is complicated when professors are giving up on language and they're like, look, the only way people will understand this is through tie-based metaphors. But that's where we are. Our drug pricing system is so broken, everyone is just constantly passing the buck.
PBM substitute expensive drugs and overcharge Medicare Part D. They're lining their pockets with the money from the taxpayers.
Oh, so it's the PBMs.
Pharma companies determine their prices. You need to have a pharma company CEO explain why they keep raising the prices.
Oh, it's pharma.
How much you pay is largely a function of how your insurance policy is set up.
Wait, it's insurance?
PBMs certainly play a problem here.
The drug companies to blame for the price they set.
Insurance companies.
To PBMs.
It's the government's fault that I'm paying high prices.
Wait, stop. Hey, stop doing it. This is like the most depressing version of Dance Dance Revolution. Stop doing that, please. I'm gonna have a seizure. These four love pointing fingers because if you can't figure out who to blame, they can all keep making money. This crisis has consequences every day. People are dying because they can't afford basic medicine, but there is hope. Congress has the power to break patents in an emergency. They've never done it, but in the past, the threat of breaking patents has forced drug companies to lower prices. Right now, there could be enough political will to change things. There seems to be momentum. Politicians across the political spectrum have made drug pricing a priority, especially for the 2020 election. Right now, there are two separate congressional committees investigating drug pricing, one run by a Republican, the other run by a Democrat. Recently, the executives of 7 major pharma companies were asked to testify at a Senate hearing about drug prices. All 7 initially declined to show up, which was a pretty pancreas move. And by that I mean, those pharma execs are a bunch of indoor dicks. But then Senator Ron Wyden tweeted a veiled threat to subpoena them. And all of a sudden, the execs RSVP'd. If you don't know, subpoena is the legal term for white people beef. It's up there with, can I see the manager? It's a pretty powerful move. Now, it's encouraging to see that Congress is willing to use their power to force pharma companies to explain themselves. But the question is, will Congress use their power to force them to do more? I can only hope they listen to the millions of people suffering and not the $174 million pharmaceutical manufacturers and PBMs spent on lobbying last year alone. The burden can no longer fall on the shoulders of patients. No one should have to beg for medicine or ration their treatment or hit up the black market or rely on Ghostface Killah to be the voice of reason.
I want to see justice be served. You know what I mean? I want Congress and them to really get them. You know what I mean? I want the courts to get them because people is dying.
I've talked about this for 20 minutes, and somehow that was the clearest solution for this entire problem. I want Congress and them to really get them. I want the courts to get them because people is dying. Thank you, Ghostface.